Hi, first graders. This is our last chapter in Peter's first Easter, and it's the one titled Fishing and Forgiveness, and it's part of the stories about Jesus appearing to many people after he arose. Fishing and Forgiveness. Here, now, is the last part and best part of my story. After we saw Jesus in the upper room, many of us traveled back to Galilee, where we used to live. Then, just yesterday afternoon, I said that I was going fishing. It's the job we used to do before Jesus came to us and said, "Follow me," and we became his disciples. So James, John, Thomas, and 4 more men went with me to the seashore. In the evening, we sailed out on the water and began to cast our nets. It wasn't a good trip. We spent the whole night casting, but by early this morning, we had caught exactly nothing. Then someone called from shore, "Children, do you have something to eat?" "No," I shouted back, yanking my nets in for the last time. "Tell you what," the man called, "cast your nets on the right side of the boat and see what happens." "Right side, left side, what's the difference?" I grumbled. Who did that amateur think he was? We did this for a living. But John, who is forever cheerful these days, called out, "Okay," and obeyed the stranger. Well, as soon as John's net hit the water, so many fish jumped in that it began to drag the whole boat down. "Peter," John's eyes were sparkling, "don't you know who that is?" "Who?" "It's the Lord." Sometimes my feelings are so strong that I act before I think. The Lord? I jumped in the water and swam to shore. Yes, it was the Lord. It was Jesus. And he had a fire burning and ready for us. He said, "Help them bring the fish in and let's eat." I did. In that single catch this morning, we landed 153 fish. A happy day. We took several of the best fish and cleaned them and broiled them and then lay down in the grass to eat them. This time, my eating did not keep me from noticing Jesus' face. I think I took maybe one bite before I saw that he was not eating, just like the last time at the Last Supper. But the difference was he was staring straight at me and no one else. Oh, my face burned like a fire then, and the fish stuck in my throat. I could not chew, I could not swallow. I hung my head, scarcely breathing. After a while, Jesus said, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" He didn't call me by my special name. I didn't look up at him. I whispered, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." He said, "Feed my lambs." He didn't say anything for almost a minute, but he kept looking at me, and I kept looking down at the ground. Jesus said, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" I whispered, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." He said, "Tend my sheep." No one was eating now, and I was shaking. When Jesus spoke again, the tears spilled down from my eyes. "Simon, son of John," he said, "do you love me?" 3 times he asked that. It was the same number of times that I had denied him. That's why I was crying now. "Lord, you know all things." I said so softly that maybe he couldn't hear me. "You know I love you." Well, when I had said that, Jesus leaned over and put his arms around me and hugged me so tight that I burst into big crying like a baby, crying for happiness, for sheer, pure happiness. He lifted me up and he put me on my feet. He gazed into my eyes and he gave me a job to do for him for the rest of my life. Jesus said, "Feed my sheep." That's what happened just this morning. And I have run as fast as I can to tell you the good news. Jesus has forgiven me. 3 times I hurt him, and he took the hurt, and he went down to death with it. When he rose from the dead, the hurt was gone. And when I was so sorry for what I did, he came and loved me 3 times back again. And now I have so much of his love that I can love you just like Jesus. Forgiveness. We are both forgiven. How do I know? Well, when we were done eating, Jesus smiled and said the very same thing he said when he first called me Peter. Peter, he said, Peter, you know, his big stone. Peter, he said, follow me. Sometimes my feelings are so strong that I talk before I think. Yes, I cried, oh Jesus, I will follow you forever. The end.